All the way up to Rabbi Eliezer Omer.
Yes, I believe so. So I remember when I reviewed with you my chart at the end of the session, and that was
Right.
up to here.
That was the chart for right.
For the understanding of Rav according to his interpretation of Rabbi Yehuda.
Right. Okay. Now we have Rabbi Eliezer. Now, anybody remember what Rabbi Eliezer holds? Eliezer, actually, we had it before Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Here we're just brought in the name of Rabbi Eliezer. Oh, no, this is different. These are two different views. This goes back to Rabbi Eliezer in the Mishnah. Rabbi Eliezer said, Ein lo lemud shmira ela sakin. There's no way to guard a muad effectively except to put it out of commission. The knife, sakin. Interesting. We don't call the knife the shchita a cherev. We call it a sakin. Doesn't do destruction. It does. It makes the animal capable of being eaten by a Jew, and of course, what?
He was referring only to a muad.
He's referring to a muad, right?
Only.
Right. The only way to guard a muad who's already has been established as a dangerous goring animal. He has a nature to do this. So if that's his nature, as established by the fact that he's already done it 3 times. So there's no reason to assume that he won't continue to do that if he has the possibility of doing so. So Rabbi Eliezer says, look, somebody that owns an animal like that, the only way he'll be able to escape liability if it does damage is by making sure it doesn't live to do any more damage. That's the only way.
So basically he's saying that once you have a muad on your hands, kill it.
Yeah. Yeah, you can check it, you can eat it.
Check, well,
You can have a nice barbecue, a lot of omer, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But to allow it to allowed to continue to exist and do damage to other people and things and other animals is okay. So, Omer Rabba, want to read Roy?
Omer Rabba said, May Tsama Rabbi Eliezer. What is Rabbi Eliezer's reasoning? The Torah, scripture states, below Ishmarena, he did not guard it. He did not guard the Lord. Shuv ein lo shemira lazeh. So henceforth, which implies that henceforth, this ox is no means of guarding. Once it becomes pure, there's no way of guarding it.
Huh. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Lo Yishmarenu means not that in this particular case he didn't manage to do the shmira that the Torah requires, but it's sort of like saying once he's been established as a muad, he won't be able to guard it. Shuv ain't lo shmira lazeh. Lo shmira, it has no shmira. There's no foolproof way to guard it. Okay. Have a Rashi? No. Don't have a Rashi. Rashi didn't come. Okay.
There's Rashi. There's no Rashi on this page.
Here's Rashi at the very top. Top two lines
That's it, that's all.
are the Rashi for this for this parak that we're now about to be Messiah, Ezrat Hashem. Because after the first two lines it says Hadron Alach Shor Shenogach Arba B'Chamisha, which means the minute we finish it, we say Hadron Alach. We will return to you.
Right, so, Omale Abaya said, Aaron, Yichsiv. So then what is that which is written below, Sin, casino. So, Abaya said to Rabba, so then that which is written, and he will not cover it, which is still it. Nami Shuv, Einma, Kisui, Kisui, Nazir. Will you also say it means henceforth this pit has no means of covering? So he's comparing the situations. Rechi ta'amar ha'chei nami. And if you should say that it is indeed so, it says here that there is nothing one who dug a pit can do short of refilling it to protect himself from liability in the event the pit causes damage. Why? We learned in the Mishnah, Pisahu, Korea, Venofel, Lusaka, Shur, Amor, Omes, Patur. If he covered it properly, and an ox or donkey fell into it and it died, he is exempt.
Right, okay. So, step one. Let's go back over these steps. Rabbah is explaining what's the reasoning behind Rabbi Eliezer, who says that there's no shmirah of this animal that's going to get him out of liability. The only thing he can do is shecht it. He says it's based upon the pasuk that it was if the shore gores 3 times and he's been testified against in the Bezdin, he's been made a mud, and then it says v'lo yishmerenu, and we generally translate it as and he didn't guard it after that, and goes out and does damage, he'll have to pay now. Nazik Sholem. But according to Rabbah, explain Rabbi Eliezer, it means that shuv ein lo shmira l'zeh. The pasuk is saying that the way we're reading the pasuk lo yishmerenu, he will. There's no shmira to this animal anymore. What does it mean that there's no shmira to this animal? What does that mean exactly?
There's no method of reliably guarding it.
Right. And therefore, since there's no reliable way of guarding it, no matter what guarding that he does, he's going to be liable. That's the bottom line. He's going to be liable.
So you can translate the ain in this case as and he's not able. Rather than he didn't. And he's not able to.
Right. The reason why he's going to be liable is because since there's no reliable way to guard it, to prevent it from doing damage, so you're at fault for allowing it to continue to be around. The only way to properly guard that this animal doesn't do any more damage is to put it out of commission. So if you didn't do that, you're responsible for it doing damage. You have to pay. And that's learned out from these words, lo yishmerenu. So on that, Abaye is asking a question. Amalei Abaye, el ma'ata diksiv. It's written in a pasuk. Now this is a pasuk about boar. Should we crack open the Humashim and see this pasuk in its place in the Chumash? I think we'll be able to. Hopefully, we'll be able to appreciate what Abai is saying better if we see the pasuk, the full pasuk inside.
Is it within the rules to compare an ox, which is a live thing, with a bull, which is not a live thing? Both of them have owners, so that cancels that out. But a boar doesn't go out to. A boar doesn't go out to.
Okay, so what's the basis of comparison? Is the basis of comparison on the basis that they damage in a similar way? Is that the reason why they should have the same din? What's the question that Abai is asking over here?
He's asking on the phraseology.
His question is based upon the language of the pasuk. It's not a comparison between the way a boar damages and the way a shore damages. Certainly they damage in a different way. But it's the way the Torah relates to the damage is what we're comparing. Abaya says that the very same phrase that exists by shore also exists by boar. Just like it says v'lo yishmerenu by a shore, it says v'lo yichasenu by a boar. So if you're going to interpret lo yishmerenu, meaning shuv ein lo shmir lizeh, there's no way to responsibly guard the animal at this point. If that's the way you're going to read that phrase in the Torah, then you're going to have to be consistent. You're going to have to be consistent and read the phrase v'lo yichasenu in the same way, because the Torah is consistent. So where's this pasuk? Lo yichasenu.
It's 33. It's 21:33.
21:33. Okay.
Page Kuf Chet.
Right. Okay. So, v'chi yiftach ish bor. Person opens up a bor. O ki yichra ish bor. Or he digs a bor. V'lo yichasenu. And the way we would translate it simply is, and he doesn't cover it up after having opened it or digging it. Naful shama, shor chamor. And then shor chamor follows in there. Balabor Yerushalyim. The owner of the bor, the one who's the one who dug it, Yerushalyim Kesef. Yeshiva Bava. Okay. So there'll be liability. So this, what it says over here, below Yechasenu, is the same, as Abaya is to be read in the same way as the words Lo Yishmerenu. The bor is he dug the bor, or he opened up the lid on the bore. Now he's got a bore. Now that bore is capable of doing damage. So he wants to say about it, "V'lo yichasenu." So after having said that we have a bore over here, there's no shmira that he'll be able to do which should escape liability. Just like we said by the shore. There's no way you can escape liability. Shuv ein lo shmira lezeh. That's what it means, lo yishmerenu. There won't be any way to guard it to escape liability. To say, I've done my job. You can't hold me liable. I did everything that I was required to do. I acted responsibly, and I'm not liable for the damage. The damage is not my fault. If so, we're saying by the shore that's not that the lo yishmerenu means that he cannot say that. There's no way to guard it. If it does damage, it's your fault. It's your shore. So too here by the bore, it says v'lo yichasenu. It's the same exact expression, meaning there's no way to cover it up now to prevent liability. If there's going to be damage, he's going to be liable. That's the way Abaye says, according to this expression, el me'ata. This is the language of a question, el me'ata. But me'ata, from now, based meaning according to what you have just darshaned, Rabba. So then, this pasuk by bor, the following result should come out. Nami shuv ein lo kisui lazeh. There's no way to responsibly cover this bore to escape liability. And if you'll say, so be it. Let that be the din, as you say. There's a problem with saying that, because we have a Mishnah that says that that's not so. We have a Mishnah that says, Vatanan kisohu karu'ui. He covered over the bore karu'ui, according to the way that one needs to do, in a responsible way to prevent anybody from getting damaged. And if nevertheless, nafal atocho shor chamor, if somehow, some way, I don't know how, but something fell in and died there, potter. The person that dug the bore and now covered it will be exempt, because he covered it. He guarded the bore from doing damage. So the Mishnah says that there is a way, that there is a kisui, even after the bore has been dug, that will prevent liability. So you see that we don't say that lo yachasenu means that there's no way to do kisui on this bore. We don't say that there's no way to cover it over to escape liability. So if so, the question of Abaye is, so then your drasha, the way you're explaining Rabbi Eliezer, is also not so. It can't be so either. Because the Torah is not inconsistent. The Torah is perfectly consistent. If I've proven to you based upon the Mishnah that you can't explain the lo yichasenu, that there's no way that he can cover it to escape liability, so the same will have to hold true in the case of lo yishmerenu. So you can't say from those words, shuv ein lo shmir lezeh. Okay. Okay. Yeah. You want to read?
Sure.
Luke?
Ella Amar Abaye.
rather said Abaye. So he's now going to change his point. Aninu Tsama the Rebbe Eliezer. This is the reason of Rebbe Eliezer. Kitasanya, as we learned in a Brisa, Rabbi Nassim says, Minayin shelo yigadel adam. From where do we know that a person should not raise kelev ra b'toch beso, a wicked dog within his house. Ve'ein ya'amid sulam, and a person should not place a ladder ra'u'ah b'soch beso. He shouldn't place a rickety ladder in his house. Shnei Amar, as it says, Lo sasim damim b'veisecha. Not place blood in your house.
Right.
So in other words, he's saying, because we have this principle that we shouldn't have dangerous things around, therefore, since a muad is a dangerous thing, you shouldn't have a muad around.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's not based upon the pasuk per se of Lo Yishmerenu. The question though would be, how is he going to learn these words for Lo Yishmerenu? Let's see how, there's a Rashi over here. Rashi's going to deal with this. In other words, we can't escape the fact that the pasuk says V'lo Yishmerenu, and then after those words V'lo Yishmerenu, the Torah relates that there's going to be liability, Shalom Yishalom.
Shelo yidal adam kuda. A person should not raise.
Okay, he's reading Rashi.
Hechinami, here also, Hachinami, here also, hi, it is, lo yishmar renu, he did not guard, lo yikai menu, he did not establish it.
Okay, so Abaya is saying that the way we have to understand this pasuk of Lo Yishmerenu is not the way that Rabbah understood it. We refuted Rabbah's reasoning. That's why the Gemora over here says Ella. That means that we've refuted, that the Gemora has rejected Rabbah's explanation of the reasoning of Rabbi Eliezer. So Abaya offers his own reasoning of Rabbi Eliezer. He says it's based upon what this Rabbi Nosson says here in this pasuk, in this brisa. Person is not supposed to raise a kelev ra in his house. He's not supposed to have a rickety ladder in his house because of the pasuk that says v'lo samim damim b'veisecha. Don't place the pasuk that don't allow to have around in your house something that could cause bloodshed. Put it like that. So now the question is, this is very nice, but what does it have to do with our pasuk? That's the question that Rashi is dealing with. Because ultimately we have to say that the din of Rabbi Eliezer has got to be based on the pasuk of Lo Yishmerenu. That we can't escape, and in that Abaye agrees with Rabbi. But he just showed that the way Rabbi learned out the Lo Yishmerenu, it's not exactly like he was saying. And now she's explaining how Abaye is saying that we have to learn from the pasuk of Lo Yishmerenu. So what is Rashi saying over here? Shelo yigadol adam v'kulei. Hakinami hai. Rabbi Nosson, he was talking about a dangerous, violent dog, or a ladder that could break and someone could fall down from it. So that's what he was talking about. Says Rashi, Hakinami hai. So too, we can apply that principle that he said with the dog and the ladder to our case with the shore. How so? Lo yishmerenu. What does that mean? Lo yishmerenu. Lo yikaimenu. To be shomer something means, what is to be shomer something? It means to watch it, to maintain it, to keep it around. So Rashi explains, Lo yishmerenu, what it means is Lo yikaimenu. Don't keep it around. When something is kayam, as we were talking about in Nefesh HaKayim, that means it's existing. It's being maintained. It's there. So Rashi is saying, according to Rabbi Eliezer, the words V'lo yishmerenu means, and don't continue to keep it around. If he continued to keep it around and he did damage, he's going to pay for that.
How is that answered? The challenge that we brought from the case of the pit, you have to say, you have to apply the same principle, wouldn't you? You didn't cover it, would be,
What would it mean?
don't maintain it. Don't keep it in existence.
No?
No, why not?
Because we're darshaning the fact that it says Lo yishmerenu. That's what the word means, Lo yishmerenu.
Don't guard it.
Don't keep it around. But that's not what Lo yichasenu means. Lo yichasenu is a different word. According to the way we were explaining Rabbah, he was using the word, there's no shmira possible. Lo yishmerenu means there's no shmira that's possible. Here, so therefore we say correspondingly, Lo yichasenu means there's no way to cover it. Covering means cover. Kisui is referring to covering. Shmir is referring to guarding. So we were saying there's no way to guard it? Okay, so there's no way to cover it. Fine. We translated each word according to what it was, based upon the phrase, the conjugation, the phrase of the similar phrasing and conjugation. But over here, it's based upon the meaning of the word. Lo yishmerenu, to be shomer something, is to be mekayim it, to keep it in existence. But that's not what the word kisui means. Kisui has nothing to do with keeping in existence. So it doesn't transfer over to this. It doesn't transfer over.
If he covers it, as opposed to filling it in, he's keeping it in existence. If you want to translate Lo yishmerenu as he shouldn't cover it, he shouldn't guard it. Why not? Because of the principles of dog. He shouldn't have blood in his house.
Right.
So you could say, okay, use the same translation to he shouldn't cover it, meaning he shouldn't leave the pit in existence so that it's possible that some creature would fall in it.
Okay, so again, it doesn't translate the same way. It doesn't translate the same way. Let's try to explain according to Abaye. So how would Abaye learn the words lo yechasenu then?
Right, that's what I'm asking.
That's a very legitimate question. That's a very good question. Matter of fact, it looks like it's Tosfos' question over here. At the time of the Rebbe Elazar could assign the first Tosfos on the page. It says Tosfos Tema. Mehai Taima Nami. Loi Taske Bor Bekisui Mishum the Rebbe Nosson. Even if the word Yechasenu doesn't mean to maintain, but according to the reasoning of Rebbe Nosson, the Rebbe Nosson says, don't leave a dangerous thing in your under your dominion. It won't be sufficient to simply cover over a bore, because maybe that bore cover is going to get knocked off. People are going to trample on it, or the rain is going to come and blow, or the wind or whatever is going to blow it away, and then the bore is going to be revealed, and then somebody's going to fall in and get damaged.
Have a great day.
Thank you. See you later.
Okay, all the best, Roy. That would appear to be Tosfos' question. So according to this Rebbe Nosson, how do we understand the Kitzur? How do we understand the Mishnah? The Mishnah says clearly that there's such a thing as covering the bore in a appropriate and in a fitting fashion, such that if nevertheless some animal falls in and dies, the one who he's going to be putter.
Right.
He's going to be putter. How can he be putter? How can he be putter? So what is Tosfos' answer? Yesh lomar. The boar islay tekanta tvei kishmechaseu karoi mishor shenogach mishor nagchen. Tosfos seems like he has more than one answer. His first answer is that when it comes to a boar, so Tosfos is not hung up on the lashon. Granted, Tosfos is saying, based upon the lashon, you would say the very same thing. In other words, lo yechasenu means the way we're learning lo yishmerenu means you can't allow it to exist. So he's saying the same. So why don't you say the same thing according to Rabbi Nosson? Say the same thing. Lo yechasenu. Lo yechasenu means there's no way to cover it. There's no way to allow it to continue to exist.
Right.
When you cover it, you haven't filled it in.
Right.
If you fill it in and there's no bore over there, so you're not going to be liable.
Right.
But if you just cover up a bore and the bore is still there, but you just covered it up, so that's not foolproof. So let's say that if some quirk happens and it becomes uncovered and the animal falls in and dies, he should be liable. Well, the Mishnah doesn't say that though. Really what we're saying is that the Mishnah and Rabbi Nosson seem to be at odds with one another. It's not simply that Abaya doesn't give a good answer. It seems as though Rabbi Nosson and the Mishnah disagree. According to Rabbi Nosson, there's no way to cover the bore. So Tosafos' first answer is no. There's a difference between a bore and a shore. That's his first answer. Yesh lomar, the bore is lei tekanta tvei. In regard to a bore, there's more possibility to give an appropriate remedy to it. Kishemechaseu karoi, when it is appropriately covered. Mishorsh nagchim, more so than a shore which is a dangerous boring animal. That's his first answer. That's his first answer.
See why I need the second answer. First answer is okay. And granted, he's got an explanation, but he doesn't support it with any. He doesn't support this idea of the difference between the bore and the shore with any source.
Yeah, it's a svara.
Right.
It's a svara based upon the way we view the ability to cover over a bore, and the way we view the ability to guard a dangerous shore.
Right.
He says, in other words, that there is an acceptable way to cover a bore that it won't be dangerous anymore, and which is not so by the shore. Okay, v'od yesh lomar. Meikara vadai sogadaitach the Rebbe Eliezer the inyan tashlumin ka'amar. Aval hashta maskin in time of the Rebbe Nosson lav the inyan tashlumin ayri ella the gabe iser ba'alma the asur the kaimo. Oh boy. Okay. Od yesh lomar. There is to say further. Initially, the Gemora certainly thought that Rebbe Elazar, in saying that there's no shmirah on the animal except with a knife, he was speaking primarily in regard to the matter of payment for ensuing damage. If the animal is going to do damage, you're going to have to be responsible to pay. Aval hashta, but now the maskinan time of the Rebbe Nosson, that we have concluded the bottom line is, according to the reasoning of Rebbe Nosson, that one may not allow a dangerous thing to exist in his property. Lavla inyan tashlumin ayri. We're not talking here in regard to a matter of payment if damage ensues. Ella, what are we talking about? The gabe iser ba'alma, in regard to a matter of prohibition.
Right.
The asur l'kaima. It's forbidden to allow the situation to continue to exist, a dangerous situation. The one who is on his property, he's not allowed to allow that situation to continue to exist. It's like eating treif. You're not allowed to eat treif. You're also not allowed to keep a dangerous situation in existence.
Right.
The ikla meimar, the gabi bor nabi.
Right. It's like a ladder.
Isura. Nami Isura. And there is to say that in regard to a bor, it would also be forbidden. Aval modeh, but he's modeh.
Who's modeh?
Rebbe Eliezer. will be modeh she'im shamru shmira mu'ula, that if he guarded a superior guarding on this board and he covered it up appropriately, like the Mishnah says, vehezdik, and it nevertheless does damage, patur, miyu. But patur, period. He will be exempt. If he does a shmira ma'ula. In other words, what's a shmira ma'ula? Doing a proper and fitting covering of this board.
Right, but there's also a shmira me'ula for a shore.
For a board. Miu b'shmira pachusa, but if having this dangerous board around, he only does a shmira pachusa, a less than superior guarding of it, then vadai lo sagya.
Certainly it's not sufficient.
Mida asla kaimo, in view of the fact that it is forbidden to allow it to exist. Ula hachi amar la'el, and that, and we said above on the previous page. Hamani, Rabbi Eliezer. Who is this Mishnah? None other than Rabbi Eliezer.
But there's also a superior guarding for a shore. So if you want to make the parallel, then you have to say that if he's superior guarded the shore.
Not according to Rabbi Eliezer, there's not. There's no such thing.
But
For a Nagchan, there's no such thing as a superior guardian. The superior guardian is Sakin. But with a boar, there's such a thing. Rabbi Eliezer admits that there's such a thing as Kisui Karoi.
why does he admit that? There's no difference in the wording of the psukim. Therefore, you have to say that the same presumptions apply. What's his source for saying that there's a difference between the two?
That's what he says, that there is a difference. If you look into the matter, there's a way to guard a boar responsibly and give it a shmir mu'ula. But for a dangerous animal, there's no way to do so.
We just went around.
There's no such thing as a shmir mu'ula.
This is circular logic. Rabbi Eliezer makes a statement. There's no guarding except for the night.
Right.
So now we're trying to understand why he's saying that, how he gets that.
Right.
And in order to explain it, we say that there's a superior guarding for a boar,
Right.
and therefore he gets out of it with a superior guarding for a boar. And I asked, wait a second, there's also superior guarding for a shore. And you said,
Not according to
not
Rabbi
according to
Eliezer.
Rabbi Eliezer, but you
Right.
just proved Rabbi Eliezer with Rabbi Eliezer.
No. Rabbi Eliezer agrees that there's such a thing as the shmira mu'ula for a boar. The shmira mu'ula for the boar is, in spite of the fact that you keep it around, which may be us to do so, l'chatchila, but when it comes to tashlumin, if you guard it responsibly like the Mishnah says, so you'll be patur. But he says the case of shore is different. It's a different case. A shore is more dangerous than a boar. It's less possible to guard it in a there is no responsible way to guard a shore. It's just different. It's a different mitzias. It's a different thing. It's a higher level it's a different level of danger, of doing damage. So therefore he says there's no responsible way to keep it around. There's no responsible way to keep it around. It's not called the shmira ula to put it in a pen with a rope and lock the door. No.
So what
It's
you're
not.
saying
It's
is
more
true.
dangerous. It's more dangerous than a boar. A boar is more capable of being guarded responsibly that it won't do damage.
If what you're saying is true, then I would say that what Tosfos should say is shani hasam. It's different here. A shore is not like a boar. He wouldn't have to go through all of this lengthy discussion with all of these points he just made.
Okay, we gotta.
Be continued.
Next. Thank you.